War Emblem is the leader as the field turns for home. Proud Citizens still hanging in there with the fighting chance. Perfect Drift is down toward the inside. Came Home is putting in his run now. He's about 4 lengths from the lead. Harlan's Holiday is picking it up. Here comes Medaglia d'Oro, who's there on the far outside. 1 furlong to go. War Emblem is still there. War Emblem, and he's pulling away. He's got another gear. War Emblem coming down to the final 16th. Now he's in front by 3, and now he's going to win it. War Emblem has won the Derby in front-running fashion.
All right, so once again we are back, and wasn't expecting to have to do another video of this series, but like I mentioned in the AP Indy video, that when unfortunate things do happen, we will come out with remembering videos. And if you did not hear, War Emblem, 2002 Kentucky Derby and Preakness winner, champion 3-year-old male of 2002, did unfortunately pass away. Had a paddock accident. That's what we're hearing. Unfortunately, I was actually supposed to interview Michael Blowen of Old Friends on Wednesday, but as you could assume, that did not happen. But unlike the AP Indy video, I do have with me my co-host Eric. So yeah, I'll let you jump in here right now, and you can give your thoughts on War Emblem before we get into looking back at his career as a racehorse and just his life in general.
Yeah, and losing any horse at any age is very sad for the sport. But losing a champion and especially Kentucky Derby winner, the Kentucky Derby epitomizes the sport of horse racing, and it's just a very sad day anytime we lose a former Kentucky Derby winner. Because it's even more sad on a grander scale because the public knows this horse. Any Derby winner is known by the public because it's the one race a year that seemingly everyone watches. So it's even of greater sadness that this is a horse that represents the sport in a way. And to lose him is just heartbreaking. And he was getting up there in age, probably lost him a little bit sooner than I think most of us were expecting. But and I'm sure that part of that had to have gone along with just the rigors of all the traveling he did after his racing career, because that does often affect sires and when they pass away. But just an incredible animal, well loved by seemingly everyone who was around him. Bob Baffert named him his own Hannibal Lecter because he bit so much. But it just obviously you could tell that this horse was one that people got along with, and it's a sad day for the sport anytime we lose a horse. But this one just seems to hurt a little bit more.
And that's the thing about War Emblem that I'm sure anybody who's ever interacted with him, maybe people who have been to Old Friends and got to see him in his later years wouldn't necessarily be able to know this as well, because they do keep the fence between the public and where the tour guide is with the horse interact. But any person who's had a direct interaction with him will definitely tell you, like, War Emblem's an endearing horse, even though sometimes it might seem like he wants to kill you. So just to reiterate, it's unfortunate. And of course, it had to happen last week, the week of everything sucky happening. So, but War Emblem was classic type of horse that, came from, didn't have the best breeding, was not a horse that you would have looked at and said, boom, that horse is going to win the Kentucky Derby in 3 years. But he came from lesser breeding grounds that, was a little inconsistent in the early part of his career. But, something that Eric, when I texted Eric and said that War Emblem died, one of the things that he mentioned is that War Emblem was a horse that was so good at carrying his speed over it. And, War Emblem was the type of horse that, when he was right, which he was right in the Kentucky Derby, was right in the Preakness, was right in the Illinois Derby, could win, use that speed, carry it as long as he could, as far as he could. And, unfortunately, stuff happened in the Belmont Stakes. He stumbled, wasn't able to win the Triple Crown that day. But, War Emblem, obviously, Kentucky Derby, Preakness winner, Eclipse Award winner. A lot of good things to say about War Emblem, even though he doesn't have that Triple Crown next to his name.
And I think the biggest thing about this horse is just how he became this legendary dual classic winner and just this incredible racehorse. He was about for $20,000 as a yearling, which even back then was not a lot of money. It was sold in one of the later books of the Keeneland September sale, and he started out his career at Arlington and at the fairgrounds in the Midwest. And he was a promising horse, but never seemed to get it right until he won the Illinois Derby, and then after he won the Illinois Derby and Preakness, Bob Baffert doesn't have a Derby horse, and Prince Solomon buys, I believe it was either 90% or 100% of this horse. Either way, it was for $1 million, and this horse went on to do incredible things. Kind of weird circumstances, but kind of the ones that kind of make this sport great. Even though Blue Blood did win it, they won it with maybe a horse that wasn't originally Blue Blood. He kind of came from obscurity. It's one of the more incredible stories in racing that I think just kind of gets forgotten every now and then. But and I know Jack already kind of touched on it, but this horse could carry his speeds in incredible distances, and he was just incredibly fast. One of the fastest, top 10 fastest derbies in history. One of the funnier things is just he was either win or go home. 7 firsts in his career out of 13 starts, 0 seconds, 0 thirds, never finished 4th. Other than his wins, his best finish was a 5th in the Lecompton. I mean, kind of funny, but kind of just showed that when he was on his best game, he was a runner.
And there were plenty of times, the Haskell was another one that I didn't bring up, but you can also look at some of his other starts. The Pacific Classic didn't really have it there. Breeders' Cup Classic didn't really have it. The Belmont, I already mentioned the stumble there. But just to talk about the legacy of him, he came around, was one of the horses that made ABC really want to really regret giving up the rights to the Kentucky Derby. With that, and got a lot of people around that time where the ratings of the Triple Crown were through the roof, and the 3 consecutive years of the Triple Crown horses that resonated with the public more and more each year. War Emblem obviously wasn't I don't want to say wasn't as loved as much, but wasn't as much of an iconic horse as a horse like Funnyside or even more Smarty Jones, but still from that 3 years of tries to win the Triple Crown and couldn't do it, it is War Emblem's obviously there.
Yeah, I mean he was kind of the horse that before Bob Baffert got his 2 Triple Crowns, cemented Bob's legacy as the guy who couldn't get him there. Through the Belmont. And obviously, it was to no fault of Bob that War Emblem, broke to his knees and never really recovered. Victor had to come up with something. And the Belmont, you have to be perfect in the Belmont to win that race. It's the ride really matters more than anything. And after you break like that, there's not much you can do. And really a lost opportunity, I think, for this horse. And I mean, I don't know whether or not he would have won the Triple Crown, but he definitely would have been in with a fighting chance off the turn if he didn't break so poorly. But just even the way he bounced back in his next race, winning the Haskell by daylight very impressively, kind of just goes to show how resilient this horse was, and how once again, when he was on his best day, he could compete with the best of them.
So yeah, and obviously War Emblem was not to say a failure at stud, but just like as we mentioned, had the very odd personality of a horse. But his runners, obviously this is not, we talked about AP Indy last time on this. This is not a horse that was a what we call a sire of sires, but when he did have horses, they were good horses.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point you make. Unfortunately, despite being bought by Japanese connections for his stud career, things just didn't seem to go well. He really just was very spotty with his fertility, and but even when he had a runner, the horse could run, and I think it's kind of a missed opportunity, unfortunately, for everyone involved. But I think at the same time, we were fortunate when we got to see his offspring run. They could really run, and it was exciting to see, and I think it was even more exciting the fact that they allowed him to come back for Michael Blowen to bring him to Old Friends and live out the rest of his life at such a special place, especially for retired racehorses to live out the remainder of their lives.
So yeah, obviously, a sad day. War Emblem but the legacy of War Emblem obviously doesn't have the legacy that AP Indy has, but certainly nothing to take away from him. War Emblem was a solid racehorse, and he'll be remembered as a dual classic winner. One of when Bob Baffert's done, he'll probably have one of Bob Baffert's 6 or 7 Kentucky Derby winners. So great horse. Unfortunately, circumstances didn't always benefit him with respect to the Triple Crown and everything, but that's really it with War Emblem. Great horse, or I should say really good racehorse, and it's sad to lose him.
They turn for home. Harlan's Holiday on the far outside is winning in 3rd. Menacing Dennis. Fatigue is set upon him. Medaglia d'Oro's not going to get it done today. On the far outside the hometown hopeful Magic. Wisner is coming late.